What if the subjugation Pokemon Pecharunt was in Pokemon Unite? I believe Pecharunt will fit best as a supporter or defender hybrid, but officially classified as a supporter similar to Sableye or Greedent. Pecharunt does not evolve, meaning that it will always start the match as Pecharunt. It will be a ranged special attacker with poor offensive capabilities, amazing endurance, decent support, and average mobility and scoring. Its ability would be Poison Puppeteer, and it would have two effects. First of all, when Pecharunt poisons an enemy Pokemon, that enemy can't harm Pecharunt until the poison fades. And for the second effect, while the Pokemon defeated by poisoned enemies will be counted as if Pecharunt defeated it. This ability will go on a cooldown of 30 seconds, and with certain moves could affect multiple enemies at once. One of its two starting moves could be Smog. Smog would have a cooldown of 7 seconds while being a ranged attack. Pecharunt would discharge a filthy gas in a cone, dealing small damage and poisoning foes. Once you're at level 5, you get two options to replace Smog. The first option being its signature move, Malignant Chain. Malignant Chain would be a ranged hindrance attack with a cooldown of 8 seconds. Pecharunt would swing one of its chains from left to right, dealing damage. If this attack hits an enemy Pokemon, it can be used again from right to left. Enemies hit by both uses will get poisoned and immobilized for 2 whole seconds. When this move is upgraded to level 11, enemies would only get hit once to get poisoned and immobilized. Its other option to replace Smog would be Poison Gas. Pecharunt would release a thick gas around itself, poisoning foes and hindering their vision, similar to Greninja's Smokescreen. At level 11, when this move is upgraded, the gas would linger around for a whole 2 seconds. This move would be an area of effect hindrance and have a cooldown of 9 seconds. Its other starting move could be Withdraw. Upon activation, Pecharunt would retreat into its shell, take a reduced damage for 3 seconds. However, while in this state, it cannot use any moves or basic attacks. Now for its second move selection to replace Withdraw, at level 7, one of its two moves could be Recover. Similar to Withdraw, Recover would stop it from using moves or basic attacks, but this time, Pecharunt would recover a set amount of HP over 3 seconds. If Pecharunt recovers a full amount, nearby allies would recover the same percentage of HP. Unlike Withdraw, Pecharunt can cancel this move at any time while keeping its recovered HP, however allies would not get the healing. If Pecharunt or its ally would recover more than their max HP, the remaining recovery would instead become a shield. When Recover is upgraded at level 13, allies would start recovering HP over time just like Pecharunt, instead of getting the burst of healing when Pecharunt finishes. This move would have a cooldown of 6 seconds, starting its cooldown when the move ends. Its other option to replace Withdraw could be Poltergeist. Much like Withdraw and Recover, Pecharunt would retreat into its shell, can attack, and would take reduced damage, and like Recover, it can be cancelled any time. But unlike Withdraw and Recover, Pecharunt would also receive a movement speed increase. If Pecharunt approaches an enemy while in this state, it would start hovering behind that enemy. When hovering behind an enemy, that Pokemon would receive 10% less healing from and their offensive stat would be lowered by 15%. Pecharunt can stay in the roaming form for 3 seconds, but if it attaches to an enemy Pokemon, it can stay in use for another 3 seconds. When this move is upgraded to level 13, enemies could not be able to use a battle item. If the battle item is on cooldown, then the cooldown would be paused until the move ends. Its cooldown will be 8 seconds. For its Unite move, I would call it Deceitful Mochi. Pecharunt would launch one of its deliciously sweet mochi towards the target. When the move connects with an enemy Pokemon, Pecharunt would retreat into its shell, taking 90% less damage and getting the Unstoppable status. When in this shell, Pecharunt would control the enemy for 5 seconds and be able to use all of the regular moves. Things Pecharunt could not use would be the enemy's Unite move, battle items, or abilities such as Hoopa's Magician or the move reset part of Mew's Synchronoise. So, could you dominate over your foes with Pecharunt? the subjugation Pokemon, or would you just submit to its sweet mochi? See y'all whenever I get an idea for a video. Don't forget to do the YouTube things like, comment, subscribe, and finally, what the fuck is this? I got 100 subs? I guess this is the 100 sub special. Okay, bye.